One part of money that gets a lot of people in trouble is debt. Remember, the second of our 5 foundations is to get out of debt. Now, debt is owing anything to anyone for any reason. Borrowing money from your friend because you forgot your lunch money? Technically, that's debt. Telling your older sister that you'll pay her back, but you really need to borrow $10? Well, that's debt. It's on a really small scale, but you need to realize that it's debt. And the problem is people go into a lot of debt for really big things in life. You may have heard the word loan before, and a loan is usually associated with big amounts of debt, like a car loan or a student loan to go to college. You've heard the word credit, usually with a credit card, but it's all debt. You're borrowing someone else's money to pay for something you want right now. Now, that sounds like a pretty awesome plan, right? You get all this money and you get to go spend it on whatever you want. But it's not a good plan, because here's the deal. You have to pay it back. And most people, they don't have the money to pay back what they've borrowed. And this leads to stress and huge financial burdens for people. So whether it's credit cards, student loans, or car loans, going into debt is always a bad idea. And it's a bad idea mathematically speaking because you pay more for something because you have to pay interest. So if you just bought something with cash, then that's great. But if you borrowed money on it, you have to pay more for that thing because of interest. And it's also bad emotionally speaking because you owe someone money. Have you ever owed anyone anything? It's not a fun feeling. So remember, save up and pay for things you want with cash and say no to debt. Learning to live without debt will save you from a lot of money trouble later in life. And by living debt-free, you will have a lot more of your own money to go spend on stuff you want.
Rachel identified that debt is a huge problem in our country today. You see, all of the interest payments that go along with car loans, student loans, and credit cards create a huge financial problem. Let's take another look at these things that lead to debt disaster. The first thing is interest. You see, interest goes along with all the different types of forms of debt. Interest is the extra money you have to pay to use a credit card or to take out a loan. Interest payments can eat you alive and put you in a terrible hole financially. Trust me, I'm so passionate about this because I've been there. And the interest will stretch out, check this out, for years. And to me, that's horrible, and you don't want to be there. Next, you have a car loan. Borrowing money with a loan to buy a car is super expensive when you add in all the interest. And plus, a new car loses so much of its value the moment, and I mean this, the moment you pull off the lot. To me, again, that's just a bad idea. Next, you heard Rachel talk about student loans. We'll talk more about the financial impact of borrowing money to pay for school later. Just know that taking a loan to go to school is just like any other loan. You will have to pay a lot of extra money in interest, and your payments will stretch out. That's a lot. For many years after you get out of college. Believe me, I know what this feels like. Finally, something that messed up my life is credit cards. There are a bunch of problems that go with credit cards. When you use them, you are agreeing to borrow money to purchase something. That's debt. And remember, debt comes with interest. So you will pay more for your item than if you just would have paid cash. You see, debt is marketed to us just like any other product. Why? Because the interest associated with this debt creates income for the company selling the debt. You don't have to watch TV for more than 30 minutes or be in a car very long before you see and hear the marketing of debt in ads such as just 5 easy payments of $19.95. 30 days, same as cash. 0 down and 0 interest for 12 months. And here's one that got me every time back in them days. No payments until next year. That sounds good, huh? Wrong. How do you know if you can't afford to buy something? It's simple. If you have the cash to pay for it, you can afford it. If you don't have the cash right now, then you should wait and save up for it. Don't be like me and fall for the marketing traps that lead to debt.
I remember being in high school and my mom said a phrase to me that kind of rocked my world. She said, debt can make people look better than they actually are. And she said this in the context of a girl I knew in high school, and she got a brand new car when she turned 16. And this girl, I mean, it was like the nicest car in the world, right? So nice. And I remember a few months later, all of us girls, we wanted to go to a concert that was coming in town. And the concert tickets were running probably about $100. Now, I don't know what concerts cost where you live, but for us, that was a pretty big deal. And so the next day, I remember she came back and she said, yeah, I talked to my parents and we just can't afford a concert ticket right now. I can't go. Now, that normally would have been totally fine, but I thought it was so strange because she had this brand new luxury car. I'm like, how can you afford a $50,000 car, but you can't afford a $100 concert ticket? It didn't make sense. And so I remember I went home and I told my mom the story, and my mom said, this may not be the case for your friend, but for some people, they go into debt for that car, and so they don't have the cash on hand for something like a $100 concert ticket. So debt can make people look better than they actually are. So all through high school and college, I would see all these commercials on TV with like all this nice stuff, and then I would see people with nice clothes and purses and houses, vacations, cars, right? Like all of this nice stuff. Now, some of those people can pay for that, sure. But other people can't. So some of those people I saw actually went into debt for those things. They didn't actually have the money to pay for it. And so it's a very interesting concept. Just because someone looks like they have a lot of money doesn't mean they do. Now, some people do, of course, but some don't. So remember, debt makes people look better than they actually are.
All right, we've been talking about budgeting, saving your money, and making wise choices with your money. Now, if you bought everything you see on TV, you wouldn't have any money at all. And worse, you'd be in big time debt. Now, these people who make these commercials, they're really good at making us feel like we have to have what they're selling. So whether it's the newest game console, the latest version of the game you love to play, super cool new camera, whatever the newest technology is that you think you have to have, you don't. So the next time you're watching these commercials, be smart.
One of the biggest money mistakes that people make is going into debt. Now, I know we've talked a lot about debt in this curriculum, but let's look at the reality of what debt does to a family's household budget. Now, let's say a family brings home $4,000 a month. You may be thinking to yourself, $4,000? Cha-ching, we're rich. Okay, not really. $4,000 actually goes pretty quick, and it's actually what a typical American family brings home. So if we have $4,000 a month, we need to plan it out and do a budget. The first thing on the budget is usually housing costs. This is things like rent or a mortgage and all the utilities like gas, electricity, heating and air. All of this will generally run about 25% of most people's budgets. Now, that's $1,000 like that. Right off the top, $1,000 is gone. And in some people's cases, their housing is even more than that. Then there's car expenses, things like gas, insurance, repairs, and that'll run about $500. Then there's also food. So when you want to go to the grocery or go out to eat, you'll need about $600 a month. And then don't forget about debt. Maybe there's one credit card bill, a few car loans, maybe a student loan or two. The average family sends out about 25% of their paycheck to go back to debt. So that would be another $1,000. And then you have to remember all the insurances you have to pay. Things like health insurance, auto insurance, home insurance. That'll run about $400. And don't forget about your cell phone, right? We can't live without our cell phones. Well, for a family, that's usually about $200 a month on cell phone bills. And then there's also a miscellaneous category you have to have. So things like home repairs, toiletries, toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning products, all that stuff in life you need a plan for. So we usually plan about $200 for that. And then there might be school fees for you guys, for your lunch money, field trips, maybe sports fees. That's $125. So what happens is that all of that actually puts this family $25 in the hole already. There's nothing left to spend for the rest of the month. There's no more money left. So what if you want to go to the movies? Or maybe you need a new baseball glove or a new pair of shoes? Well, there is no more money. You guys, that is what debt does. Debt eats up a lot of people's money every single month. Now, there's an activity in your student text to help you see the total dollar amount impact of debt on a family's budget. But imagine if they didn't have debt payments. They would have all that money to go and spend and enjoy, maybe go out to eat, save for vacation, go to the movies, go to a concert. So remember all of this when debt is offered to you in the future. Say no to it so your paycheck is all yours. So in this lesson, we've talked a lot about debt, how debt can really ruin a family and their household budget. Remember the chalkboard? All of it. So for you guys, I want you to realize that when you go into debt, it's like trying to drive with just using your rear view mirror. Because what's happening is you are taking your money and you're throwing it backwards. You're living life in reverse versus looking forward, looking out the front windshield and driving. Let me just show you how hard it is to drive in reverse. Not all of you are 16, so here's a great lesson in how hard it is. And plus, I'm really bad at driving in reverse. Oh, jeez. I want to look. Oh my gosh, yeah. Stressful, it's not fun. Don't try that because you could hit a car like I almost did. Not good. So remember, it's so much better when you can go into drive. You can go, driving, it's so much easier doing this. I can pull into a parking spot, I can park with ease, all of it. So much easier when you don't have debt in your life and you're constantly having to use that. Again, it's like you're paying for movies you've seen, food you've eaten, vacations you've taken, all of that. You're taking your money, you're throwing it backwards, living life in the rearview mirror. Don't do that. Say no to debt so you can live your life looking out the front windshield.